Hi, my name is David Thorstad. I'm an assistant professor of philosophy at Vanderbilt University, and in spring 2026, I'm a fellow at the center here at Pitt. Most of my work studies bounded rationality. By that I mean something fairly simple. Humans are bounded on the inside, right? We got limited cognitive abilities, and when we use these abilities, we pay costs. Those are the internal bounds. We're also externally bounded. If you look around, you're in a certain environment. You could be in a different environment. You didn't pick your environment, and that environment definitely structures the kinds of strategies available to you and the costs and benefits of those strategies. And so theories of bounded rationality just ask, if you've got an agent who's internally and externally bounded in these ways, what does rationality require of an agent like this? Most of my work works within a 5-point bounded rationality program. Point 1 is that bounds matter normatively. You wouldn't ask about, say, physical bounds like calories. Well, wouldn't running be a great idea? I could just run everywhere all the time, and let's ignore the fact that it consumes calories. We can't ignore that bound, that's important. And likewise, you shouldn't ask of cognitive processes, let's just ignore memory and reasoning costs and limits on computation, and then ask questions about rationality within the mind, just like outside the mind. In this tradition, questions about rationality start by taking our bounds for granted and asking what to do given these bounds. Pillar number 2 is procedural rationality. People in this tradition certainly do think about the rationality of attitudes, like preferences, like beliefs, like intentions, but we like to go a level up and think about the rationality of processes, like reasoning, like remembering, like gathering evidence, through which we produce and modify our attitudes. We think that often when you look at cognitive processes which produce and modify attitudes, you see a lot more accurately where the bounds come in and why people are doing what they're doing. Pillar 3 is heuristic rationality. We don't just want to talk about processes in general. We think that humans have a toolbox of fast and frugal heuristic strategies, things like satisficing, things like lexicographic choice. We think that these strategies are pretty good. Why are they good? Well, we had thousands of years to learn and evolve them. And so we think that a good starting point for locating some potentially rational cognitive strategies for bounded agents is to think about the kinds of heuristic strategies that we already use and why these strategies might be serving us well. Caveat is plank number 4, namely ecological rationality. So any cognitive strategy works well in some environments, not in others. No shade on the strategy, that's just the nature of environments. So the question cannot be what is the rational cognitive strategy, full stop. The question is rather, in which environments is a strategy rational, and roughly the answer is, well, in the environments where the strategy does well. So theories of ecological rationality are about matching strategies to environments and taking rationality to be about the match between strategies and environments. Plank 5 is vindicatory epistemology. You might have heard some folks in the 70s and the 80s telling you that humans are pretty biased and pretty irrational all the time. Certainly sometimes we do silly things. We drink, we drive, we work too long, we gamble, we vote for dictators. Nobody should ever tell you that humans are always rational. But at the same time, bounded rationality theorists think that if we think very hard about the kinds of constraints that humans are under and about the kinds of ways in which our behavior, which might seem irrational, stems from those constraints, then we might be able to rationalize many of the behaviors that seemed fairly irrational. All right, that's the program. What am I doing here at Pitt? 2 things. The first is I want to go back to ecological rationality, which, remember, is the idea that rationality is about matching strategies to environments. Typically, we give this a fully externalist gloss. We say a strategy is rational if it does well in your environment. Never mind if you think it's going to go well. Never mind if you have any evidence it's going to go well. Never mind if all of your evidence says it's not going to go well. That's still a rational strategy. I think this is a pretty strange thing to say because we're informationally bounded agents. We don't have full evidence about our environments, and that's a pretty important bound. So if we go externalist about ecological rationality, we're throwing away one of the most important cognitive bounds. So my first aim here is just to get a less externalized theory of ecological rationality. And the second project goes back to Planck 3, is heuristic rationality. So one of the heuristics that many people like, satisficing, is often paradigmatically opposed to maximizing value and maximizing normative theories. That's a problem. I'm a good consequentialist. I like maximizing normative theories. I think you're rationally required to maximize value ever, always, and in all aspects of your life. And so the question is, how do we square heuristics like satisficing with maximizing normative theories? So that's the program, that's the project, and that's what I plan to do at the center.